Back in your life on this Monday, July 23rd, 2018. Hello again, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm Ariel Helwani in our New York City studio. What a great day to talk a little mixed martial arts on this Monday afternoon. There's so much going on in the world of MMA, from UFC yesterday in Hamburg, Germany, to Invicta on Saturday. All kinds of things going on. LFA, the UFC is back in Calgary finally. All of these years later, for that big makeup card going down, we have a jam-packed show, as always, a star-studded lineup. There is so much that has happened in the world of MMA since we last spoke. The welterweight division is completely upside down. What is going on with Anderson Silva? What is going on in the Bellator Welterweight Grand Prix, the Heavyweight Grand Prix? So much going on. So let me run down today's lineup because we have a guest who is standing by at the airport. He is the talk of the MMA world. He is the man that everyone's talking about. He had an outstanding afternoon in Hamburg, Germany. We'll get to him in a second, but first, let me just tell you who's on the show today. Okay, Ali Abdelaziz, 5 o'clock, 4:45. Alex Volkanovski. Austin Vanderford, who was royally screwed, in my opinion, last week. He'll be on at 4:30. 4 o'clock, Fedor Emelianko will be in studio, sitting right over there, right next to me. This is very exciting. Alexander Gustafsson has been in the news. He'll be joining us at 3:45. Anderson Silva will be on the show to talk about somewhat being vindicated last week. So that's at 3:25. 3:15 will be Frankie Edgar. 2:55, Tyron Woodley. First interview since all the craziness happened last week with Colby Covington and Darren Till. Kat Zingano will be on at 2:35, talk about her big win in Idaho. Paulo Costa, Bohashinia, the best-looking man in the universe, will be on at 2:20. Joanne Calderwood will stop by. I haven't talked to her in over a year at 2 o'clock. And then at 1:15, Chael Sonnen, my partner in crime over here at ESPN, will be in studio as well to promote his big fight against Fedor on October 13th. But first, let us go to the phone lines. And by the way, you can follow us on Twitter right now. Hashtag Helwani Show. Send us questions. We'll answer them later on in the program with New York Rick. There's a lot to discuss, so hit us up. Make them good. Make them count. We'll get to them in I think that's the fourth hour? Fourth or fifth. I was never good at math. Anyway, let's go to the phone lines and say hello to the man who is on his way home from Hamburg. Big win over Shogun Rua yesterday in Germany. He is the talk of the MMA world, and he's kind enough to be joining us on the phone right now from the Newark airport, I do believe. He is Anthony Smith. Anthony, are you there?
I am, sir. How are you?
I'm amazing, and I can't thank you enough for squeezing us in. Very hectic to fly from Germany back home to Nebraska. How are you doing? How's your flight going?
Oh, it's going well. You know, I was up all night after the fight and didn't sleep, so I was able to sleep on the plane almost all the way from Hamburg to Newark.
Has it sunk in, Anthony, that in a little over a month you have knocked out two former UFC champions, first Rashad Evans in Chicago, 225, and then yesterday Shogun? Has that actually sunk in yet?
I'm not sure. You know, a little bit. I think that that's what I was expecting to do, you know, so I'm not surprised that I was able to knock out Shogun. You know, that's what I said I was going to do, and I just try to deliver on everything that I say, you know.
It's one thing, though, to knock out people, you know, in consecutive months. These are legends. This is what you have been thinking about, striving for, main eventing a UFC show. This is on a whole different level. It must feel a little different, right?
Yeah. Well, I think what makes it feel different is kind of the media, you know, like I'm grateful that I've been in a position to be able to even be in there with two legends like that. But to be honest with you, it's the media that makes it a little bit crazier than it normally would have been. To me, it's just going out there and just doing what I always said I would do, you know. And I always said that someday when things started clicking and things started coming together, that people were going to be in trouble. And I think that we've reached that point.
The interesting thing about you, Anthony, is that you are about to turn 30, correct? Later on this week.
Yeah.
Happy early birthday. You are doing a lot, and you have done a lot before you hit the big 3-0. And I feel like a lot of fans may think, oh, you're a new face, you're a new kid on the scene. In fact, you almost have 45 fights on your pro record. And so I'm wondering, and I say this with the most respect possible, like, what took so long? Why is it all clicking now for you, and why didn't it click earlier in your career?
You know, I think a lot of it is I'm just a late bloomer, and I think that it took a little bit longer to mature. You know, if you really dig into my record, you know, I had like 10 pro fights before I was even 21, you know. So I think I've literally grown up and became a man in front of everybody's eyes, and just no one was really paying attention. You know, I think that I was geographically in an area, you know, where I lived that MMA was a little bit behind anyways. We did fight a lot, but as far as, I wasn't on the West Coast in California with all the super technical guys for a long time, So I think as the game caught up in the Midwest and started blowing up, I think that I had more of an opportunity to grow, So I think that's a little bit of it when I was younger. And I think just a lot of it's becoming a dad, Once I was a father, everything started coming together. And like I said, maturity-wise, I started growing. And now physically, my physical capacity is meeting my mental capacity for the sport, and things are just coming together now.
How many children do you have?
I have 3 daughters.
3 daughters, amazing. And the oldest is how old?
She's almost 7.
Does she have any idea? I mean, so what do we got? 7, and then what are the other 2?
7, 4, and 1.
Okay, wow, that's amazing. I have 6, 4, and 1. We're like kindred spirits here, Anthony.
We're right there.
Does the 7-year-old have an idea what her dad does now?
Yeah, she does, man. We don't hide it at all from our kids, At least that's how me and my fiance do. We don't shield them from it, It's what I do for a living. It's how I support my family, and I don't think that I should hide that from them. I know a lot of fighters do, so and there's nothing wrong with that either. But they don't really attribute fighting to conflict. So I think as long as we can keep those two things separate, I think that we're all right. But if you ask my kids, Daddy fights so that I can buy them toys.
Was she watching live yesterday?
Yeah, they all were.
Wow, that's amazing. I can't, because usually I know you fight later on at night, so great to have an afternoon card. I'm wondering, so you've looked very good in your last 2 fights, and let's be real, you looked very good as a middleweight recently up until the Thiago Santos fight. I know that was an opportunity for you to take a step back and reassess things, but how much of a factor has the move been now? Now you've done it twice, 205, you don't have to cut as much weight. I mean, even watching you, it's shocking that you were even able to make 185 to begin with. How much of a factor do you think this is in your success right now?
I think a lot of it is the move to 205, and I know that people thought that I was making excuses when I said, all right, I'm leaving 85, I'm going to 205, I can't do this anymore, the weight cuts are killing me. I think that people thought that, all right, well, that's just his excuse for losing or whatever, and I really meant it. Like, I finally figured out that I was diminishing myself so much. I really think that I was fighting at a very small percentage of my capability at 185. I would be through my training camps and I would feel really good, and then I would get to the weight cut the weight, and then afterwards I just never felt right again. And, it would take me a week or two, to start feeling normal again. So without having to do that, I'm so much more confident going into the octagon, not worried about if I was going to be able to keep up, or is my conditioning going to hold up. And even movement-wise, I move so much more fluidly when I'm at 205. I feel faster, I'm more explosive, and obviously I'm a little bit more powerful because I'm able to. I was able to knock guys out at 85, but it was taking a while. It was kind of a death by 1,000 cuts, at that point. But now I'm able to change the game with one shot.
Were you aware going into that fight yesterday that Alexander Gustafsson wasn't available to fight on August 4th?
No, I wasn't, and I wish I would have known. I don't know if even the UFC knew, or I don't know who knew, but I wish they would have told me, because now I kind of feel like I wasted my shot,
I understand what you're saying, because you feel like it was like a pointless call out, but I would argue that this couldn't have worked out better for you, because not only did you just knock out a former champion, coming off another knockout of a former champion, now it kind of looks like, hey, here I am, ready to fight in 13 days, and for whatever reason, I think the timing from a PR standpoint wasn't done correctly on their side. I think you came out looking like $1 billion in all of this, because now it seems like, oh, he's not interested, let's move on. And I feel like you leapfrogged the Yoels and the Luke Rockholds and any other 205 contender just based off what you've done, and the fact that you're asking to fight Alex on 13 days notice. Like, this couldn't have worked out any better for you.
I think the only way it could have worked out better was had I really been able to fight him.
Okay.
And gone in there and beat him. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. Listen, fighting Alexander Gustafsson on 13 days notice isn't the most ideal situation in the world. But if you can get a fight like that, I definitely wanted to, because I think that I'm good enough to contend with him. So I definitely get where you're coming from as far as skip, my ability to, like me being willing to take those fights on that short of notice. But it would have been cool to have been able to actually do it,
Do you believe that he was out before the fight, or do you think he's out because of how good you looked?
Well, initially, I didn't know. So when I found out that he was hurt was at the press conference. So, I didn't know before. So as soon as I got to the press conference is when the other media people told me. So it did seem really ironic at the time. But, once it comes out that he was already going through some things and he wasn't sure that he was going to fight already, and that there was only a few executives that knew, then that's when I kind of figured out that it probably has nothing to do with me, that he was probably not going to fight either way.
Okay, it's obviously not happening August 4th, and I can't imagine that they'd put you on the card now because there's really no point. Is that the fight that you still want for the future, for your next fight?
I'm definitely willing to. I don't have any problem with that. It just depends on, I think you got to let the landscape kind of lay out a little bit. I really think that DC, a lot of these cards lie in DC's hands. DC needs to figure out what he's going to do. I think that, as I said before, I think DC's an honorable man, and I think that he needs to decide whether he's staying or going. And he said he wanted, he had a name in mind when he was talking about coming back down to 205, and it was Shogun. And obviously those plans have changed now. So I think that before anybody, in the top 10 or whatever figures out what they're going to do, we need to figure out what DC's doing.
I remember talking to you just a couple of weeks ago after DC said on this show that he wanted Shogun next, and you felt a little slighted by that. Fair to say, though, all right, Shogun's not here. You just knocked him out, that you feel like maybe you should be next for DC if he comes down to 205?
Yeah. I would. Obviously, I'd love to be in that position. I just don't think that DC's going to come back down to 205. I think that he already knows that. I just don't see any world where DC comes back down to 205. And honestly, if I'm being honest with you, I think that DC needs to go back up to heavyweight, and I think he needs to give Stipe his rematch.
Okay, so you're pushing for that. You'd like to see him vacate, and would it be fair to say that you want a vacant title shot? Do you feel like you've done enough to earn that?
I think so. I do. I think that with my willingness to do whatever is needed in the division, and with Glover fell and Gus is hurt, and Volkan is hurt. Like, who else is there? Who else do you put there?
Did the UFC give you any indication as to what they're going to do after the fight?
No, I think that they just wanted to kind of let me chill out a little bit and take a break and enjoy my birthday and hang out with my family. That's kind of the vibe I got, and kind of let the cards fall where they're going to fall and see what it looks like here in a week.
How soon do you want to return? Like, what's the perfect month for you?
I'd like to fight one more time before the end of the year. November or December would be great.
This is an incredible story for me. What is going on there? Is that like the baggage thing?
That's the baggage.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, Ariel.
No, it's great.
I'm sorry.
Listen, I appreciate it. It's music to my ears. I was very worried that you wouldn't make it in time. But to me, I just love this story so much because you've been doing this for so long, and all of a sudden, like, you're the bell at the ball, and I just can't imagine for someone who has, jumped around from all the regional scene and promotions and even fought for Strikeforce a little bit and had, the cup of coffee with Zuffa, if you will, and now to be in this position. It's one of the best stories of the year. It truly is. And I couldn't be happier for you. I would imagine it's probably going to really sink in once you get home and be around your family.
Yeah, I think once I get home and I can really sit down and kind of digest it a little bit. When you have these big fights and you're out of the country or away from your kind of home element, you're never really alone. So I think once I get home and have a second to like I put the kids to bed and tuck them in, and I get to sit down in my on my couch in my living room and really just take it all in. I think that's when it'll set in that all these years of work and telling myself and anybody that'll listen that someday things are going to come together and I'm going to start, making waves and that I can be a world champion. I've always believed that, but man, after a while, it's like, when's that going to happen?
Yeah.
Like, when is it going to come together? And I don't know. I'm really proud. I'm proud of my team, and I'm really proud of myself that, after a decade of pushing and sacrificing everything, at least now there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Were you ever close to giving up?
Yeah, a couple times. I was on that. I got cut in 2013, and then I lost my first fight right after that to Josh Neer. And I don't know, man, that was tough. You know, it's like it wasn't if I could get back and do it. It was did I want to? You know, like, did I want to fight my way back again from the bottom and do it all over again? And ultimately that answer was yes. You know, I just wasn't that excited about it. You know, it's kind of like one of those, oh man, I got to do this shit again. You know, so yeah, this sport is so disappointing sometimes. You know, it'll just wreck your confidence, man. This whole game and how the fans kind of treat you when you lose, and this whole game will just make you just hate who you are sometimes. You know, and over time you figure out how to deal with that. But you know, now I'm in a position where I'm doing really well, and that's why I don't let myself get too up or too down, because it takes one bad day and it's all gone.
How did you eliminate that? Like, how did you block all that out in order to get back on the horse and keep going? Because I can imagine, especially in the days, you know, with social media now, like it can really weigh on you.
I don't know. I just do it. You know, I try to block out all the emotions and the feelings, and I know what I need to do, and I just try to put blinders on. You know, even today, you know, even after what I've done in the last two fights, you can't make everybody happy. You know, 2 days ago, Shogun was the savage that was going to walk right through me, and today, you know, he should retire.
Right.
You know, I beat up the old man. Like, you're never going to make everybody happy, and once you figure that out, it's a lot easier to block all the bullshit out.
So the perfect scenario for Anthony Smith is return by the end of the year. Safe to say fight Alexander Gustafsson for the vacant 205 title. Is that the perfect scenario, or am I off?
In a perfect world, I'll stand across from whoever they want me to for a vacant title.
All right. Sounds good to me. Anthony, I appreciate this very much. I know it was very hectic. Thank you so much for allowing us to call you in between flights. Safe travels home. And again, congratulations on the win. Enjoy the victory. Happy early birthday. Enjoy your time at home. You deserve this, my man. You have been through a lot, and it's very cool to see. And I will say, I have been late on getting on the Anthony Smith bandwagon, so I apologize for that, but I am a believer now. Thanks a lot, Ariel. I appreciate the platform, man. I mean, if it wasn't for guys like you have such a huge stage that everyone listens to. So if it wasn't for you even wanting to talk to me, man, who knows where I'd be. So I appreciate it. I really do. All right. Thank you very much. Safe travels. We'll talk to you soon, Anthony. Take care, Ariel. All right. There he is, Anthony Smith, stopping by from Newark Airport on his way home to Nebraska. What a great story, and very happy for him. Okay, let's bring in our in-studio guest. Here he comes, my main man, my partner in crime, Chael P. How great is this?
This is beautiful.
Chael, have a seat. I'm going to take off my headset.
Are we on?
Yeah, we're on. We're live, Chael. You don't have to put your headset. You don't have to put them. No, we don't need it. That was just if we were going to talk to Anthony.
Number one contender.
How about that?
Smith?
How about that?
You agree?
Alexander Gustafsson?
Let me paint you a scenario real fast.
Okay.
Let's say DC does what George St. Pierre did and goes, listen, just get on with it. I'm not coming back to the... So now you have two.
Yeah.
Certainly Anthony Smith stands on one side of that cage, yes?
Yes.
Probably against Gus.
What about... Okay, so Romero, Rockhold, those guys don't get it.
I don't think so. Do you?
They haven't earned it. They haven't fought at 205. What do you say to people? Because a couple of people are writing to me right now, like, hey, he just beat a 38-year-old and a 36-year-old, in Rashad Evans who just retired. 38-year-old. I mean, that's not the old Shogun, right? Yeah,
I think that's right. I would simply counter with he just beat two former world champions, and he beat them both in the first round. He retired one of them, and he might have just retired the other one.
The biggest story right now, and I agree with you, I would love to see Anthony Smith. I mean,
you sick? You got a cold?
I'm a little bit sick, yeah. Thank you for asking.
You have vitamin C?
I have this juice right here.
What's that? Gatorade?
I don't want to plug them. They're not.
You don't want to plug them?
Yeah.
Is there vitamin C in that?
No, there isn't.
Okay.
It's just sugar.
I'm not sure why you brought it up then.
Chael, can I say it's great to have you in studio?
It's really nice to see you.
It's really nice to.
Thank you, buddy.
I mean, we're very rarely face to face.
Thank you. My mother's here.
Claudia.
Yeah.
Mrs. Sonnen.
Yeah, thank you for knowing her name. She's right outside.
I can't see her, but I'll just wait.
Yeah, she's somewhere over there.
Wow, she made the trip? To the big city?
Yeah, she was going to go on this trip by herself.
Which
she has
trip?
to drive 2 or 3 hours, and then she sits in this little place by herself in Oregon.
Okay.
I said, Mom, I'm going to New York tomorrow. Just come with me.
Wow.
And she's like, I'm in. So
How often do you get to travel together?
Well, she goes. She goes to every fight.
She does?
For sure. Yeah.
Still to this day?
Oh yeah. She's never missed. Ever.
Never missed one?
No, never. And
really?
But on media tours, not very often.
A little rare. Yeah,
a little rare. But it's time. We're in Times Square. You got to come out.
Do you enjoy having her at the fights?
Yeah, definitely.
Really?
Yeah, it would feel weird if she wasn't there.
It doesn't make you more nervous?
No. I mean, I've never thought about it in those terms. I suppose if I was to, it would probably be more of a calm. I mean, it's your mom. Come on.
Yeah, I know.
Who doesn't want to be around their mom?
Absolutely, but like you want to perform.
Yeah.
You want to win. You don't want her to be sad.
Sure.
You want her to be anxious.
Those are real things. But no. Overall, no. I'd rather she was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
When people, and I'm happy that she's here. When people heard that you were going to be in studio, we already plugged it last week. They thought like there'd be some heat here. Should we address the elephant or just move on?
I feel like the elephant's addressed. You're being polite. You're not always polite. Wasn't that the whole point?
So you think I put on a front?
No, I don't think that you put on a front. I think it's human nature, but I will go back to that if you.
Let's do it.
May I recap Anthony Smith real fast?
Okay, please, because we got off him. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I really don't appreciate that people are saying. I like what they're saying about Romero. Right? I mean, he did just fight for 2 titles. They were razor thin. One of them he would have won had he made weight. I like what they're saying about Romero, but he hasn't fought in the weight class, and that's straight from Daniel Cormier's mouth himself, and certainly Daniel Cormier. Whether he's going to defend that belt or not as champion, his opinion does matter. That's what he said. I also don't really know about this whole age thing with Shogun. I mean, I think that maybe you're looking at that wrong. Anthony Smith is who we're talking about, who's got a big shelf life left.
Yep.
Anthony Smith has done everything right. I believe he's on a 5-fight win streak, all finishes.
He has a 1 loss in there to Thiago Santos, but he moved up to 205.
Okay.
Now he's undefeated.
And his last 2 against world champions. Yeah. And the most importantly is it was his first main event.
Huge.
So he prepared to be in the 5-round club, which is very rare. So that's a piece of experience that people often overlook. I always bring it up to you, but people still do overlook it. And I'm not sure how you would talk about Shogun or old Shogun or an age. I don't really get that when we're talking about the good stuff about Anthony Smith. So
you're super high on him.
I'm super high on him, but I've been high on him for a while, and promoting is only something you can see in hindsight. So I don't blame anybody for this. But in hindsight, looking back, all of those wins, huge wins, knockouts, come from behind, Hector Lombard comes to mind. If those could have been feature matches, I certainly think that the producers and the executives and the UFC themselves would go, I wish we put that one a little further on the card. Some of those 5 wins I'm talking to you about, he was doing on the undercard that a promoter only in hindsight can look at and go, doggone it, wish we would have featured that match. So, I was very happy for Anthony, more than I am high on Anthony. I was happy that he got his due.
Yes.
And I've seen what the media said. I heard what you had to say. You're possibly the most influential voice in this space, and you're high on him. So I think we both at least agree, if there is to be a title fight in the absence of Daniel Cormier, that he makes up 50%.
Him versus Gus.
Him versus Gus makes all the sense in the world.
Did you see what Cormier said to Gus yesterday?
I did.
What do you think of that?
Well, it's not really how Daniel talks. I haven't noticed that out of Gus. My experience with Gus has not been entitlement. It has been that he's a gentleman. But so I think Daniel came from a different place. But Daniel is a very nice guy, and if he's got an opinion, it caught me off guard. Yeah, it caught me off guard a little bit. How about you?
I know he has felt this way for a while, because I think what really bothered him was that Gustafsson called out his friend after he just got knocked out from Romero. There is an unspoken rule.
Sure.
Guy gets brutally, like, if you were still in the UFC, you wouldn't call out Shogun today.
Right.
You just don't do that.
That's right.
And I think he didn't like that he did that, and he did it right after his friend got knocked out, like a day after. That was his friend. He loves Rockhold, right? So I think that bothered him, and I think he keeps talking about the fact, look, he has a point. Gustafsson hasn't fought since Memorial Day of last year. Not this year, last year. Injury, shoulder surgery, couldn't get an opponent, fatherhood, now, marriage, things like there's a lot going on, but now injured again. Can he be trusted? I don't know. There's a lot there.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But the problem is no one has emerged at 205, right?
Yeah. Besides Anthony, no, I fully agree with you. And I think that we're giving credit where it's due to Gus. I've got no problem with that. Gustafsson is a guy that nobody calls out. Daniel doesn't call him out. Rumble didn't call him. I mean, nobody calls him out. You just have to fight him sometimes. Right. Anthony Smith called him out.
13 days notice.
I mean, that has to mean something. Playground rules. Back to the day of the playground, that matters. One guy calls you out. You either answer or you lose.
From a PR standpoint, it was tough to come out with, hey, I can't make it after he called him out. They should have said that before. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, timing was against him on that one. Yeah. I do agree with you. And then of course you're going to have the conspiracy of, hey, is that straight?
Yeah.
Or was that just no, I don't like that match.
This is the Chael Sonnen rule. Anthony Smith did what you did many times before. You always asked to fight that guy on short notice. Sometimes it didn't happen, sometimes it did, but you always came across looking like the hero. And I always believed that you would take the fight.
Sure.
But even if it doesn't work out, you still get the rub, right?
Yeah,
you still look like the guy who tried to save the card.
I will tell you, when just walking around town or whatever, people that might say something nice to me or however that went, I've never had more street cred in my life, Ariel. In the same week, John Jones said no to me. Rampage Jackson said no to me. We're going to do an Ultimate Fighter together and then go. I had John Jones turn me down. I had Rampage Jackson turn me down. I did nothing. And I didn't expect anything for it. I could not believe the way I was treated amongst the MMA community. I mean, I just skyrocketed. I'm looking around going, for what? I didn't do anything. But that was the way it worked. So to your question, yeah.
That was that 151 or are those two separate occasions? 151, of course.
151 was John Jones, and then right after that,
they tried to do you versus Rampage.
Pair Rampage and I and have us do an Ultimate Fighter. And Rampage couldn't have been a cooler guy. He goes, that guy can be. He's just going to take me down. I don't want to deal with him.
Huh.
Yeah, I know he can.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then he kind of spun it a little bit. He could beat me under these rules, but I'm a fat. He still came out like a man in the whole thing. But he publicly said no. I did nothing.
Okay.
And people looked at me way different. I think Jeremy Stevens might have got a little bit of that rub.
100%.
Yeah, I think he did.
It's the Sonnen rule.
Sure.
Call him. It's not going to happen more often than not. The other guy's going to say no, but you look like $1 million.
You look like
a white knight.
Yeah.
Save
that
was
never my intent to do, but I do hear your point.
It's a nice
and you're right
byproduct.
about it. Yeah, that's right.
So just to address, we're good. You don't like
Yeah,
when
we're
I
good.
talk business.
No. That
because
isn't
I've
true.
never walked a mile in a promoter's shoes.
Okay, I appreciate you saying that. That's a bit of a condescending way that I came off to you last week. Let me just have it.
I didn't think so.
In
by
a
the way.
nice, well, that's a little condescending to look down my nose and tell you don't know what you're talking about. But to use other words, and I've talked to you about this in my head. We get off the air with our show. I don't know if you do this, but I keep going. I get up and walk out of the studio, but I keep going, because I'm trying to prove my points to you. We were specifically talking about, and you were saying that Chris Cyborg has never been pushed fully.
Yeah.
And you said, she is the female version of Mike Tyson. That's a powerful line, and that's a reality. Where I was pushing back on you and saying, you don't know what you're talking about, and you don't understand the business. Specifically, but we went off air. Ariel, there was, yes, a comparison to Mike Tyson. I know what you're thinking. That's huge and that's wonderful. And Mike Tyson goes down as the most memorable fighter of all time. People can be nice and say it's Muhammad Ali. It's not. It's Mike Tyson. Yeah. I get where you're coming from, but there was also a year called 1995. Mike Tyson knocked out 4 opponents in the row, all in the first round. For his 5th fight, ticket sales were so bad and projections for pay-per-view were so bad that Don King and their pay-per-view subscriber had to come out in a joint conference and say, if this fight ends in the first round, we will give you 40% of your money back. The only reason I offer that to you is when you are the promoter, there are things at play and there are historical facts that you have to look at. And sometimes you have to be careful. Sometimes identifying Chris for what she is, which is apparently an unstoppable force right now, can be dangerous and you can actually harm her. And that's all I was trying to get you to consider.
Good point.
I flew all the way out here to do that.
Yeah. And here I am.
And here you are.
I would counter, they haven't even done it once. So you say on the 5th fight with Tyson, he had to come out and put that, stipulation. They haven't even done it once.
Right.
Have they ever really pushed her the way she should be pushed?
Now, I do understand your underlying point on that, and I don't know if that I can answer it. I think I'd have to go back and study it, and maybe I haven't studied her completely. And she is incredible. I'm just saying to you that sometimes when you have somebody on the A side that is so unfathomable, she appears bulletproof.
Yeah, you want it to be...
You end up with that problem.
Sure.
Unless you've got an Evander Holyfield or a Lennox Lewis in the back that you're waiting to shine up, it can be a problem. That doesn't mean that you're also not right. Maybe this is just the hand you're dealt and you run with it and you steer right into it. What I was offering to you was a historical piece of evidence that the other side must be considered. If you remember, Anderson Silva was running into the same problem. In fact, he had the same problem even when he was getting ready to fight Chris Weidman, where all of us in the back, all of us that knew the sport, almost unanimously go, Chris Weidman's going to take his belt tonight. But the general public's going, I'm not even going to watch that. Who's this unknown guy from New York taking on the greatest of all time? And Dana had to build the trailers that way and have fighters come out one after the next and say, Chris Weidman's got the style. Chris Weidman's going to beat him. And that, there's a part of that with the draw. There's a part of that's important that people go into an event not knowing the outcome.
I feel like the bigger story here, the bigger topic is, and I'd love to get your take on this, your honest take. Has the UFC as a promotion lost a bit off its fastball?
Well, that's very interesting. Tell me how you mean.
listen, I in my previous show,
I think I know
did
what
this
you
whole
mean,
thing
but just
where it's like,
define.
to me, when you watch Dana White before an event, it was must-see TV. The scrums, the press conferences, the interviews. There was no better promoter in the game from 2005 or so to 2016. He won the race. He won the war. He now has $400+ million in the bank. His buddies are gone. It's not the same. You can't expect to have the same passion. Now, we saw the old Dana White when he was doing Mayweather and McGregor because that was personal. That was him versus boxing.
Sure.
That was him versus the Mayweathers. That was him versus Steven Espinoza of
He was
Showtime.
having fun.
He loved you see the passion on his face? I don't see that anymore.
Sure.
And I feel like in a case like Chris Cyborg, you don't see that because you need a promoter. You know as well as anyone. You need that P.T. Barnum. You need that Vince McMahon. You need that Don King, that Bob Arum. That's one of the issues that I have with Glory. Kickboxing, great product. They don't have a face, right? They don't have a face. Coker's a different kind of face. He's a very likable face. He's not a controversial face, but he's still a face that people gravitate towards. I just feel like they've lost a bit of that because of the sale.
Yeah, that's interesting. Passion. You used an interesting word there, which is passion. And I don't know that I could disagree with you. I can just share for you from my own life. That's never been a switch I could turn on or off. And it has died out a little bit on things, but it comes back. I like and do agree with you about when he started to get into that boxing feud and what was going on with Espinoza.
That was fun.
Yeah, and it was Dana coming back.
The old Dana.
Yeah, that's right. It was Dana coming back and having
You don't see a difference now?
Revigorated moment. I don't know if I would disagree with you. But I would just offer to you that it could come back. I just share that for myself, just as an athlete. My days of being a motivated fighter are well behind me. 10 years or so, 15 years.
Right now, still?
Yeah, since I was motivated.
You're not motivated right now.
Well, but I wanted to define it for you like this. I lost my motivation probably in my 20s, but by that, what I mean, I used to look forward to getting in the car. I used to count down the minutes to practice, getting in there and working on new things. And yes, that is long behind me. Now it's a struggle to get into the car. So now I'm a disciplined athlete. I still get in the car on time every time. I still make that drive. I still go through the process. But I now have to operate on discipline. So, does that not happen to you? I mean, you're very dedicated to this too, where sometimes, you don't quite have that same fire. So the only thing I would offer, because I don't think that your examples are untrue, is I think it could come back. I think he still does his job to the absolute max. I think if you got rid of Dana, oh my gosh, I'd short the company if I knew that was coming, compared to stock terms. But yeah, maybe when he gets into boxing and gets back into, I think you'll see that same passion come back.
Well, a lot of people have always said, you're the next guy. Do you want to do that when you're done?
No, be a promoter?
Yeah.
I like to participate in the sport. I like to participate at the highest level that I can.
You mean to compete?
Yeah,
but that won't happen forever. Like when you're 50, 60, I'm talking.
I just mean participate. Right
just
now,
be a part. Okay.
The highest I have an ability to participate is to be a competitor. If I'm going to compete, I want to compete as high on the card. I want to walk out as late into the night as I can. And on those nights when I'm not, and they only let you do it 3 times a year. So only resentment I have towards this sport is that you only get 3 fights a year. As a wrestler, you get 5 or 6 in a day, every single Saturday. I don't get this 3 times a year business. But if I'm not doing that, commentating, sitting with you, that's the highest level that I can participate. And to your question, which I've never really considered, but I suppose the highest of the mountain would to be in a promotional role, be a promoter. So
is that something that you think you?
I don't know that I
enjoy.
I don't know that I've ever aspired to be a promoter. Yeah.
It's funny, though, because you do it. I feel like subconsciously sometimes you're at a press conference and you're like, I remember in New York last year, you're like, this is Douglas Lima. Yeah. You started to put him over. And then you were talking about Michael Chandler. Yeah. You were doing promotion right there, but you weren't thinking that. It was just like a natural thing that was coming to your mind. You didn't say to yourself, like, I need to put these guys over?
I don't think I did. I don't think I did consciously, but I do like to do that. Yeah. I give a lot of insults, but I feel better about myself when I give praise. I would much rather give praise than insults, but I'm in the fight business, right? Sure. There's a lot of insults that have to go around. And yeah, I do see some of those guys where I don't feel that their story is being told. Rory Macdonald, I was at a press conference. He's a one-legged man in an ass-whipping contest the night that he wins the championship. The closest I've ever seen that in my life, if you might remember, but it was the Olympic Games, I believe in 2004, but I'd have to check that. Carrie Shrug. Yeah. Do you remember her?
Yeah, of course. Atlanta.
Broken
96.
96 in Atlanta. Broken leg, broken foot. Remember that ankle? And she had to sprint, hit the thing and go. Is that called the beam?
Yeah.
And she nails it. Wins the gold not only for herself but for the entire country, and then has to limp off the set. I mean, this was earth-shaking news. She got roles in TV shows and in movies for this. She got on the cover of the Wheaties box. That's the closest I've ever seen. Rory Macdonald's a one-legged man in an ass-whipping contest, finds a way to win a world championship. And Ariel, I felt like that story was never told.
Yeah.
And I resented that.
It
I thought he deserved that to be told.
That's one of the problems with the sport. It's like Anthony Smith come Wednesday will be forgotten about. And then we'll be talking about Poirier and Alvarez or, whatever is next. There's too many events. We don't allow ourselves enough time to build them up and then to digest them on the back end. That's one of the problems I have. Now, let me ask you.
Who's a bigger victim of that you've seen recently than Stipe?
Yeah.
Doesn't even get an interview after the fight.
Yes.
My gosh, I
know.
mean, that is the business. It moves forward very quickly,
Right.
but he's still a human being, and I felt bad.
You are approaching 2 years now with Bellator.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest difference between being a Bellator fighter and a UFC fighter?
I get asked that a lot. I've spent so much time thinking about that, Ariel, and I'm still stuck at I could tell you more similarities than I could differences. Yeah, and don't forget, I'm a fighter, so we go into the unified rules. Wherever we go, it's the unified rules. So I don't necessarily feel a whole lot. Yeah, I'm still stuck. I get asked that question a lot, and I struggle with it. The business models are slightly different, but I don't really feel that, right? I mean,
you were a part of the UFC for so long.
Yeah.
Has it sunk in that you're a Bellator guy? Like, do you fully identify with Bellator? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're rooting for that team. Yeah. They treat you very well.
Great.
Have you been happy with the tournament?
Yes, I love tournaments, and I think that this one, I would be very upset at any athlete if they pull out. I hate that. It's what's killed tournaments from day one. A guy doesn't walk out there for whatever reason. We're seeing a lot of that in the sport right now. A lot of that is because the pay has changed. Some guys, used to have to fight, and now guys have the opportunity to wait. That's a good thing that the pay has changed. But we are seeing guys that are saying they want to be fighters, and they're holding some of those spots. I still remember the day when I couldn't get in. I was very late to the party. I didn't get in the UFC till I was like 28 years old. And I could have whipped just as many guys when I was 23 and 24, but I couldn't get my chance. And I see those guys in my gym that are just struggling and trying to get by. And I tie that in with some of these guys that have locked down a spot on the roster, but then they don't want to fight. It's like, man, there's no hard feelings, won't call you a coward, won't call you anything, but give your spot up. That part of it is very frustrating for me. And so do I like this tournament? I love the tournament. If any of the final four that are left pull out, I won't be happy about it.
Is this a bucket list thing for you, fighting Fedor Emelianko?
No.
You love the way I say that. Fyodor.
You do. It's beautiful the way you say it. I can't attempt to copy it. I think this is him
This
here.
is him, yes.
All right.
Yes.
I think this is Fedor here. No, it's not a bucket list thing. I never envisioned fighting him because we were separated by 2 weight classes. I was a middleweight. He was a heavyweight. So it's a good opportunity. But I like this job. I'm not scared to do this job, or it's not something I say I want to do and then I chicken out at the last minute. I like this sport. So I believe Fedor will show up, but even if he doesn't, I will. I will fight someone that night with no complaints.
How much do you expect to weigh that night?
I would like to weigh 217.
Why 217?
I just feel I can move my best there. Yeah, I take 215, somewhere right in that 217 range, though.
Okay.
I had a goal of 217 for my last fight. I came in at 220, but I felt that was the same thing. I felt I was close enough.
You're not too heavy.
Not too heavy. Yeah, I don't want to be too heavy. I do feel that, particularly in practice. I just don't. I get tired faster, and I just don't move very well.
He's a big guy. I mean, Rampage was big too. Obviously, he's a natural 205er. Fedor has fought at heavyweight for his entire career. Are you worried about any kind of size advantage, or do you feel like you lucked out in the sense that he's actually a smaller heavyweight?
Yeah, I do worry about the size. I felt it with Rampage. It's a very real thing. And Fedor's, I worry about his explosiveness more. He's really fast, and I don't know. I don't know if he's fast for a heavyweight or if he's really fast, and there is a difference. I just know he's faster than all those other guys he fights. I don't think he'll be faster than me. I'm counting on him not being. But, yeah, if I had my choice on size, yeah, he'd come in 20 pounds smaller.
What I love about this fight, and I think I told you this before, is that it reminds me a lot of you versus Anderson. It's you going up to one of the greatest ever and poking the bear. And I know you're not setting out to do that, but you do somewhat, you've been poking at him for a while. I remember back in 2010 when we spoke about his quote-unquote fixed fights, right? Mm-hmm. And no one's ever done that. I feel like the problem is the build-up to every Fedor fight is the same.
Yeah,
it's all respect. It's all admiration. It's all, I've been watching this guy for years, and you're not going to do that. And I think that's refreshing, and that's exactly what made you versus Anderson so much fun.
I appreciate that. And, yeah, it's really tough with Fedor, too, because, Ariel, I don't like Fedor. I don't not like Fedor. I don't know Fedor. But nobody does.
Right.
I am convinced that everything he's doing is a shtick. I am convinced that this is the gimmick that he found. I'm convinced that he is the one guy who, without doing anything other than walking out there, can still fill up an arena. And those guys don't come along very often. I think it's something very special, but I think it's also nothing more than a shtick and a gimmick. And I think when I'm done with him on October 13th, he's going to be on the Russian version of Dancing with the Stars. And I can't wait to see it, because I can't wait to see him go out there. Could you just imagine him in that goofy sweater doing the twist in front of a bunch of bored judges? And that's what I think of Fedor, you know? And when people come out and tell me what a great guy he is, none of them know him. And if you tell me he's a scumbag, well, you can't back that up either. Nobody knows him. He's an isolated and quiet guy. And it didn't make a damn bit of difference to me.
So you think that he's going with I'm just going to be the mute. It's worked for me, but I'm not really this way. But then when it comes to promotion, he's going to be here shortly. You're going to do most of the talking going into this fight, right?
Yeah.
Unless they force him to do an interview or so.
Does he speak any English? Have you spoke to him?
I think he understands.
Okay, I do too.
Because sometimes I see him react, but I've never actually said, maybe he's given me a thank you.
Right.
But I've never actually had a conversation with him in English.
Yeah.
Do you believe that he speaks English?
No, I don't.
You don't?
But I do agree that he understands it.
Yeah.
I think he speaks a little bit. I don't think he puts on a ruse. I think when he can communicate, he does communicate. But I guess the only point I'm trying to make, and it's not to put Fedor down, it's just, in my own opinion, nobody knows him, including me.
Yeah.
And when I do hear from people about what a nice and great guy he is, well, you're a mark. You've fallen for it. You don't actually know that. You could be right.
Yeah.
But you can't prove you're right. And I just think that that's a little bit of a weird thing.
Do you like that they're doing Friday night at Mohegan Sun, Bader versus Mitrione, and then you at Nassau Coliseum, the new Nassau Coliseum on October 13th. So Bader Mitrione, October 12th, October 13th, you versus Fedor. It's not, a 5-minute drive, but I mean, that's like a 2-hour drive. Like, this is the tri-state area we're talking. Feels a lot more like a tournament. I was pushing for same night. They didn't go with same night. But theoretically, if you're a fan living in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area, you can go to both cards. Do you like this? What they've done here?
Yeah, I mean, I would love that if I was a fan. I don't know if I'm counting on fans taking in both shows, but and speaking of my show on October 13th, you did tell everybody tickets go on sale this Friday at Ticketmaster or Bellator.com. I'm sure you got that out.
I was waiting for you.
Oh, were you waiting?
Yes.
Yeah, this Friday. So
this Friday, tickets
that's
go on
right.
sale.
And I like it. I was told same night, and then I even heard, whether it was true or not, but they were thinking about doing Mitrione on the 12th and Fedor and I on the 13th in the same venue, both at the Mohegan Sun.
Wow.
And that would have been a weird competition for media.
Yeah.
And then it's also always weird for me if you put everybody on the same night, because somebody's going to be the main event, and it's going to be me.
Yeah.
And then that gets weird with the other guys too, right? Then the other guys go, guys, I didn't ask for this spot, but what did you do? And then the other side of it is, well, I'm going to fight for it I'm going to come to the meet. I'm going to do everything I can to be the main event. Those are things that you got to compete for. So it creates for a little bit of weirdness that we won't have to deal with now.
So you guys fight Friday, Saturday. The plan that I heard was January is the finals. You hear the same?
Yep.
And then you're done with this.
That's right.
You win this tournament. What are you going to do?
If I win the tournament?
Yeah.
Well, that night, what would my after party be?
No. Like, what are you going to vacate the title? Or are you going to stick around?
Oh, no, I wouldn't do that. I don't believe in that. I believe in passing the torch. I really do. I believe you stay in there if you're the champion until you get your ass whipped.
Okay.
You pass it to somebody else. And, I'm convinced, as great as George St. Pierre was, that he tried to. There was just nobody that could beat him. I mean, he gave guys rematches and triple rematches and this weight and that weight and move weight. George St. Pierre did everything he could do to pass the torch. There was just no one that could stop him. But I do think that's the right way to go.
Bellator's had an amazing month or so.
You've been on
Signing Lyoto, the Rory Gegard fight.
I can't wait for that fight.
The tournament, the welterweight tournament that they just announced, and Paul Daly's finally in.
He is with MVP first round?
They haven't announced that matchup, but it's going to be
hearing?
a matchup. Yes.
You're hearing? Yeah, I am too.
They signed this deal with DAZN, which is going to bring them a lot of money. It's a lot. It's a lot different than it was 2 years ago. Like, I think back, with all due respect to like the Kimbo Dada days and the Hoist Gracie, days with fighting, Ken Shamrock and things like that. Like, it feels a lot more like the Strikeforce days now than it does, the Bjorn days, if you get what I'm saying. Are you feeling like this ship is turning a little bit?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And, I've been traveling with them. I commentate whether it is at the Mohegan Sun on the East Coast or whether it's in, San Jose, the home base. They're selling out arenas everywhere we go. I was just in England. You should have seen the sold-out crowd. A lot of that had to do with MVP. But it's been unbelievable. I mean, they're doing international business now. And I check the ratings, but when I do a live show, that's just the focus group I look at. Are there any empty seats? No, they're not. Boom, business was great tonight. And it generally does work out that way. And I think the times you were mentioning with the Dadas and the Ken Shamrocks and some of the stuff you do, I mean, that was struggling to survive, struggling to move the needle as you're building a roster. It appears that Scott Coker's built his rosters.
What's it like when you go to a UFC event now? Is it weird at all for you?
No, I get a kick out of it. I had such a great experience with the UFC, and I look forward to those shows, the energy in those buildings. I like the way they're produced. They are produced slightly differently, but differently than Bellator. And I get a kick out of the whole fan experience. I become a fan. I take it in.
Look behind you over there. You see right over there? See that picture? We can see it a little bit. Bottom left of your screen.
Yeah, Holly Holm.
Yes.
Look at that.
Your favorite.
How nice of you.
You're one of your favorites. Top 5 draws in the UFC.
I do like Holly Holm. I respect her as a competitor immensely, by the way. You're showing my picture. Do you want me to respond to it?
I just want to know what you think when you see that photo.
I miss those days.
What does that mean?
I miss those days. I miss the Anderson days a lot. I missed fighting him. I missed watching him walk to the ring and seeing those looks on his face. He didn't want to be in there. I respected his career a lot, and I liked fighting him. I had fun with it. I miss it.
Was that the most fun you ever had in your career?
Yeah, definitely.
It would be impossible to recreate that time.
I think so. I had fought Anderson, walked out for the weigh-ins. 8,700 people showed up for a weigh-in. Never been done before in the UFC.
This is the one in Oakland, 117?
No, this was
the second one, 148.
140. It was International Fight Week, though, so we had a few things on our field. But I remember walking out. It was like being in an arena for a fight. Oh, the place was great. They were booing me. They all hated me. It was great. I just loved it. And my next fight was a world title fight against John Jones. And I remember coming through the curtain thinking there'd be 9,000 people there. There's probably 200 people there.
Yeah, I remember.
And I remember looking around going, what?
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of a disappointment. Things change, and that attention and that build up, man, it was a special moment. I miss it.
But so when you look at that photo, you don't think like, man, I was like literally 3 minutes away.
Oh no, I do sometimes. I try not to. I try not to.
At you.
No. I had never been in a 5-round fight before. I'd been scheduled for them, but they never went that long. The closest I ever got was Paulo Filo, but because he missed weight, they moved it to a 3-round fight. Went the distance, but it was 3 rounds. Ariel, I was so tired. I didn't know where I was. I mean, it was a level of exhaustion and fatigue. I was literally just pushing through. And my corner told me before the 5th round, this is the 4th round.
No way.
Yeah, and so I believed them. Now,
why did they say that?
My corner, they thought it was.
What?
I don't know. And I told that story, and my corner was irate. How could you say that? Matt Lindland specifically, you're so mad at me. It's like, Matt, I actually didn't ever say it. ESPN caught your audio, and they ran it on SportsCenter. You said it was the 4th round.
Oh, no.
I never brought it up to Matt. I knew he had done it, but I never said it to anybody, and then until he was mad because the headline came out. I go, no, Matt, ESPN caught it, and they just ran it on SportsCenter about 20 minutes ago. So I guess the point I'm trying to make to you is this. I've never really looked back at that night because it was such a mess in a few different ways. And I think that's probably best for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's probably best for me.
Do you think if you were told that it was the 5th round, you would have done things differently in that round?
I don't know. The first interview I did after that fight was with Mike Straka, and he used to be an old wrestler himself. And he said, Chael, we both wrestled. It's called stalling.
Yeah.
Why didn't you just run around and stall? But I was so locked in that night where I wanted him. I wanted him down, and then I wanted to stay active so that it didn't bring us back up. And that was it. That was my whole strategy. And I was just so locked in on that I don't think I would have done it anyway. And I don't really know how to stall in a fight. I do know how to stall in a wrestling match.
Sure. Post
the guy and you stay away and you move your feet. In a fight, I don't really know how to do it. So I don't think I could have done it differently.
I remember sitting there, press row, going into the 5th, the same time, thinking to myself, Chael Sonnen is 5 minutes away from finally becoming a champion. Because I remember afterwards, you even said it yourself so beautifully, and it kind of broke my heart listening to it. You said, I've been second place my whole life, and I'm second place again. Do you remember that at the press conference, in that little restaurant that we did the post-fight press conference? And I thought, at that moment, wow, he is finally, not only is he going to be first place, he's about to beat the greatest of all time. And it wasn't just, there were a couple 10-8s in there.
Sure.
It was like as one-sided as can be. and you called everything, like everything. I remember the Marquardt fight. I remember being in the Mandalay Bay. Here we are, like reminiscing a little bit, but I think it's kind of fun.
Right outside the burger bar.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you called everything. You called everything. And people thought you were crazy for asking to fight Marquardt, and saying that what you were going to do, and then you were going to go fight Anderson. I remember after Anderson acted a fool in Abu Dhabi, like people turned to you as the savior to finally rid us of this guy. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And that's when they booked the fight.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, Dana was one of them. Dana had called me for that fight, and he never calls. I was deal with Joe Silver. Sometimes I get a text from Dana, but my phone rings, 702 number. I don't have his number saved or anything. He says, "Hey, it's Dana." I said, "Well, what's going on?" And he said, "You want to fight Anderson Silva?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll fight Anderson." And he goes, "Good, because I just announced on SportsCenter you are." And I was like, "Great, I'm fighting it." But it was because of that, because he was moving around, he was able to stay on his feet and do what he wanted, and people at that time didn't like it. I think as they look back, they start to see some of the brilliance to what he did with Damian Maia, some of the distractions that people took as arrogance and showboating. That was how Anderson kept him at bay. But they knew that would not work with. I would at least get my hands on him. What happens after that happens after that, but I would get my hands on him. So that is largely why I ended up with that match.
Knowing you, I feel like the second one bothers you more than the first.
Yeah, much so. Much more so. The first one, I gave it my all. I went out there and I brought my skills, and one guy wins and one guy loses. And the second one, Ariel, I was so ready for that fight. I was so much readier. That Chael in the second fight would have kicked the first fight Chael's butt.
Really?
I was so ready. And I just felt like I didn't compete.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I mean, I've had moments like that in my life. They are hard to identify. Am I even right? Am I accurately diagnosed? I don't know. But that was my big resentment towards myself. I knew I was prepared. Everything was right. And I just felt I didn't compete. I could have competed. I could have fought harder. He threw me off. He had done a couple of things. I just felt I lost my composure and didn't regain it. And that'll happen in a fight, but you got to regain it. You got to reset. Felt like I didn't reset, and that was hard for me.
Do you ever sit back and watch some of these old fights and reminisce a little bit? Never.
Ever.
Not once.
Even if I win the fight, I can't rewatch it.
Why?
Oh, my hands get sweaty. I get nervous. Yeah, I never watched the first Anderson fight. They made me rewatch it as a build-up for the second fight. They made me, as part of the promo, watch it and then respond and talk about it.
You didn't enjoy it.
And I hated it. I fought. I did not want to do it. It was really hard. It was just hard for me. And I think that's a weakness. I think a person is better to go back and watch their matches, win or lose, and get some takeaways, break some things down. It's a weakness of mine, but it's still part of me.
So the second one, you weren't forced to watch it? You haven't watched it?
No.
Wow.
Will not watch it.
Are you the same with TV work?
For the most part, I don't get nervous in TV work, but like this show, and I love it, and I'm enjoying with you, but I feel like I know what's happening, right?
Sure.
Yeah, you got your hat in your hand. Chael flew out here. You back down. The cyborg thing.
Yeah.
Teasing, but no, I probably won't go back and watch it. Do you?
No.
Really? That surprises me.
I don't like to.
Yeah.
Little clips here or there, but I can't sit down and watch the whole thing because it will kill me.
Sure. But your mother watches it, gives you feedback?
My mom is texting me. Look, 2 messages from her right now.
Yeah.
Texting me as she speaks. She loves you.
Tell her
she was a
thank
little
you very
worried
much.
when it was announced that we were working together because she thought that you would bully me, if I'm being honest.
Sure.
She thought that you would.
Good possibility of that.
Kind of like what happened last week. She was very concerned.
Now, let me ask you this.
Was this real? Was it not real? She said, was it a work? Or was it kayfabe?
No way.
She used that.
That'd be cool if she did.
Yeah.
My mother is very supportive, but it's always with corrections, right?
Okay.
I spent an ample amount of time chewing gum while I would do segments, and I thought I could hide it. I could hide the gum.
Tough. That's tough.
Yeah, and it just drove her insane. And then she got her sisters involved, after months. And then my Aunt Paulette's calling me, and my Aunt Erla's calling me, and you got to lose the gum and stuff like that. But I tell you this, is that what your mother does? Does she, hey, Era, why that shirt today? Does she hit you with that kind of stuff?
It's only positive.
All right.
Maybe because I'm that damn good.
Sure.
But
it would be hard to improve on.
No. But she wouldn't dare. She wouldn't dare. But I respect that out of your mom. She's not afraid of insulting you or offending you. She just wants you to get better.
She has to. My dad died. She got to do both jobs now.
How old were you when your dad passed away?
I think I was 23.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you ever think what he would say about all this?
He'd have loved it. He'd have absolutely loved it. Yeah. I think about it all the time. But yeah, one of those things.
What do you think he would get more of a kick out of, like you doing the TV stuff or you being the competitor?
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I option 3. I thought you were gonna say antagonist or something along those lines, because he would have soaked that. He would have soaked that up.
He would have loved it?
Oh, he'd have loved it. We used to watch WWF back when it was WWF as a kid. We only cheered for the bad guys.
Really?
We never cheered for the good guys. No, we always wanted Ric Flair to figure 4 Hulk Hogan. Yeah, we're the only ones in the crowd.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we always cheer for the guys with the black hats. So I think he would have had some real fun with it.
Do you think you do this out of tribute to him?
Definitely.
Really?
Yeah.
So you think if he was around, he would be pushing you to do it more?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, do you mean the antagonist?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. See, my dad was real interesting about that. He would secretly love it. He'd probably tell his buddies. I don't know if he'd ever mention it to me. But, he used to bring me down to this boxing gym when I was just a teenager. And they had a bar right next door. So before you know it, now his buddies are coming down to boxing practice. And now they're all over at the bar before they come over, and they're wanting to hand out 50s to anyone that'll spar with me and things like that. I didn't know how to box. It's like, Dad, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, God damn it, you'll be just fine in there. And if you're not, then, well, yeah, he used to do stuff like that all the time. He had ample amounts of faith in me, but many times his idea of how good I was not as good as he thought I was.
Interesting.
Yeah, at many different things. And he'd always confused. No matter how many times I would get my ass kicked, it would surprise him every time.
So do you feel like he would be like your mom in a sense that he would be correcting you after your fights? You didn't do this right, you didn't do that right, even though you won, even though you were dominant.
I don't know that he'd say that much to me, but he would pull Clayton aside.
Interesting.
Yeah. I can't talk. I do what Clayton says. I don't talk to Clayton about what I think. My dad probably would.
Okay.
Let's go get a beer.
Okay.
Coach, let's go get a beer. He'd probably share his.
Yeah. Did he ever? So did you have any pro fights? While he was around?
I had a few. He was very, very sick, and he drove 4 hours to watch me fight in Washington State, and it was a very good fight by my standards back then. It won it with kickboxing, punching and kicking, and the guy finally ducked out and went outside the ropes, and the ref waved it off, but it was all stand-up, which was just a skill set that I didn't really use a whole lot of, and that was a big thrill, but that was the last time he saw me.
Really? Okay. Who'd you fight? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. Justin Hawes. I was trying to think of it as we were doing this conversation. A guy named Justin Hawes.
Okay, and he passed away from cancer, right?
Yeah.
Wow. And it's just amazing what you've accomplished. So 23, you're now
41.
41. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That was a long time ago.
Seems like yesterday.
Yeah. You still think about what he would say about all this?
Oh yeah. You always think about that. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it never goes away.
And do you feel so? When I just asked you like what?
That's the bad part of having a good dad. Like when you ask me that, it's actually very hard for me. I'm staying strong here, but that's the plight of having a good dad. I had a good dad.
Yeah.
So
great dad.
You miss him. Yeah, I miss him.
I asked you a question and you said, "Oh yeah," and then I wish I made the mental note because I wanted to ask you. You said you answered something, but you weren't answering the question that I just asked you right now. I said, "What do you think he would say?" But I lost.
About tickets on sale this Friday?
Tickets on sale. Tell us one more time.
Is that what you were getting?
No,
what would my
wasn't.
dad say about tickets being on sale
Yes.
this Friday for me versus Fedor in Nassau Coliseum?
Ticketmaster
and Bellator.com?
Have you been to the new Nassau Coliseum?
No.
It's gorgeous.
It's disgusting.
It is funny that you're back in New York. Did you fight that?
No, I didn't fight it. I mean, I'll go
You were
fight
very
anywhere,
disrespectful
but I was glad it wasn't at the Garden.
Of the city.
I wasn't disrespectful. I call it like I saw it.
Incredible city, incredible new venue. They just renovated
Incredibly high
it.
crime rate.
Is that true?
Yeah, New York?
I thought since Giuliani, your guy, I thought he cleaned it up.
Giuliani's not my guy.
He's not your guy?
No, Giuliani's not my guy.
What do you mean?
No, I know.
I thought all your kind loved Giuliani.
No.
No?
Who likes Giuliani?
Your kind.
What's my kind?
You know.
Oregonians?
The red guys.
Oh, Republicans?
Yes.
No, not Giuliani. No,
Really?
No. I mean, I'm sure he could be a perfectly nice guy. I don't know.
Is Giuliani a
he was not
Democrat?
my guy. Giuliani runs as a Republican, so I don't know how
Okay.
to answer that question.
All right.
Yeah, he's a liberal, but he is a
Pay
Republican.
attention to any of this stuff.
Yeah.
None of this.
Yeah.
You must love it.
I enjoy politics. I get a kick out of it.
You
yeah.
watch it all?
Yeah, but I'm one of those guys. People say you should never discuss politics or religion with anybody, which is a good rule.
I think that's silly.
Well, I find that I'm an exception to it, because no matter what stance I have, I am willing to change my mind if you confront me with new evidence. So the last guy you want to ever argue with in life, Ariel, and you'll meet a lot of these people, is the guy that isn't willing to be wrong.
Sure.
It's like, no. You have to be willing to be wrong, and now let me try to convince you. And I'll be willing to be wrong, and you try to convince me. Then you can have some fun. If you can't get in those kind of discussions, you got to just stay away, because then somebody will get their
Why
feelings
is it
hurt.
so taboo?
I don't know.
Who cares?
I agree.
We're all adults. Like, I don't think less of you if you voted for this guy or that guy.
Sure.
I don't understand.
Cross me out.
Yeah.
I'll vote this way. You vote that way.
Who cares?
It's like my vote didn't even count.
And then we could go have a meal and talk about other things that we agree on or don't agree on. But just because we don't agree on something doesn't mean we can't be friends.
Yeah.
I don't understand this.
Yeah. No, I also don't. But it is. But at the same time, I've seen it enough. It is a good rule. Just stay away. I think, and I would encourage other people to. Yeah.
Even on your podcast or whatever, you don't talk about any of this.
I don't talk about any of it.
You
no.
do a
It's
great
very
job with
fun
those
time.
videos, by the way.
Oh, thank you, buddy. To be on the fights, thank you.
Tell people how they can watch them.
Oh, thanks. My YouTube channel. Yeah, go to YouTube. Type in my name.
You put out an incredible amount of them.
Yeah, I get a kick out of it. You know who makes those? I found a gentleman. Ryan Parsons is my partner. Ryan Parsons found a gentleman. Dylan, he's a grad film student at Portland State, which happens to be 2 blocks from where I record my podcast. So he just throws all the equipment on his shoulder and walks on down.
Okay, so those shots of you in the booth, so to speak, with you're doing your podcast, he's just filming it.
He's just filming it. Mm-hmm.
And then he cuts them up, or you cut them up?
Ryan will cut them up.
Interesting.
With his help. But then, maybe we'll jump in the car and I'll give him a ride back to campus, which is only 2. But we'll make a video in the car.
But sometimes I see, like you did one or a couple in Vegas. You do some at the gym. Who's doing that?
Dylan does them all.
Okay, so he comes with you to Vegas.
Yep.
Oh wow.
Yep. He comes to the gym on Saturday practice. So I do my whole practice.
This is like your assistant.
Yeah, just as I'm cooling down or something, boom, he throws a mic on and I give a thought or two.
Has it been successful?
Yeah. We're growing. I mean, I think we've only been at it 7 or 8 months, but we got about 150,000.
Wow.
Maybe not. That might be a little strong, but followers on YouTube. I don't know the YouTube world, but at 100,000, they sent me a plaque, so I felt like I achieved something.
They did?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you get a plaque from YouTube. Congratulations. Wow. I think the next one, you get another plaque at 1 million, but I can't. Okay. I can't prove that.
That's
yet.
a big jump.
It's a big jump from
Yeah. So you're fighting October 13th. Will I be seeing less of you as we get closer to October 13th?
No. As far as Ariel and the bad guy goes, no.
And
I won't miss.
Like if Conor fights Khabib on October 6th, are you bailing?
Oh, no. Is that rumored?
Yes, I told you.
I know, but I
You didn't believe me?
Well,
MSG is not really in the works.
Yeah, see, then that's what I thought it was.
Maybe hoping.
Yeah, but I also, for some reason, I don't know how, I never even put 2 and 2 together that this is where he committed his crime and they might want to have him back. I had to have you tell me that and go, yeah, that's an obvious one. I don't know how I missed that.
So basically, at what point do you say I need to focus on the fight?
Well, I'm focused on the fight now, and yes, to your point, yes, there will be some point where I don't travel, but I actually, who helps me with that is Glenn. Glenn usually kind of looks at the calendar and goes, you should probably lock down and stay home right about here.
Okay.
And I usually go, okay. He usually does that about a month, but...
Glenn is our boss at ESPN. Not everyone knows him, of course.
Yeah, but he's so supportive. If I said, Glenn, I need 2 months, he wouldn't even question it. I don't need 2 months, but if he's that kind of guy, do what you need to do. We'll be here when you're done.
Look at you sucking up to the boss. Now I look like
it's a little bit of sucking up, but it's also a reality. I mean, how many people, right? How many people have a boss that does that? Sure. Calls you and says, hey, I think you need to stay home and sleep in your own bed and focus on your fight.
That's amazing.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, if it happens, I hope you're there.
Are we going to do a show today?
No.
I feel like this is just you and I. There's no.
I don't even know if this. Well,
I don't even think we definitely didn't do a show here.
This is just us talking.
Anthony Smith's top contender. Yes. We both agree it should be with Gus. I got Fedor. Tickets on sale.
Yeah, Friday.
Have we done anything else MMA related?
No.
All right.
But this was fun.
Yeah.
You have a lot of things, and Fedor's going to be sitting in that chair in a matter of moments.
I appreciate you mentioning my father too, by the way.
Absolutely.
That's a tough subject for me, but I do appreciate it. Fedor will be in this chair?
Yes.
With his interpreter?
Unfortunately, Tanya is not going to be here, but it's even better.
What are you going to do?
It's Mike freaking Kogan.
Oh, Kogan's going to come in? Yeah, that is actually better.
Now, no one's going to know my reference here. Okay. Is it wrong that I almost would rather interview Kogan? Kogan, like 1% of the world knows it.
I know.
He is like the most interesting man in MMA.
I know.
He is the Al Heyman of MMA.
He's so fun.
And no one knows.
He is so fun.
Like I'm going to have one of the most powerful people in MMA sitting there acting as a translator, and no one's going to realize.
Yes.
And he'll get really mad if I put him on the spot with something.
And he won't get credit for it. He doesn't want credit for it. And he works 22 hours a day. Nah, he's fun. You are going to have fun. But Fedor would be a tough interview, at least for me.
I enjoy it. He loves me. He loves me. He always says, anytime I come to New York, I have to do Ariel's show. He says that in Russian.
Does he?
Yeah. He actually sent me a note when I joined ESPN. He sent me a handwritten note in Russian.
That's actually very sweet.
Yeah, he didn't
do
that.
Can I see it?
He didn't do that, no.
Could you produce the note?
I cannot. All right. Chael, thank you for doing this.
All right, Ariel.
This has been a lot of fun. You have huge hands.
What do I do now? I get up and walk out?
Yeah, you just walk out.
You don't hey, we'll be right back?
We don't take breaks. I'm deathly afraid of taking breaks because I feel like the audience will leave. That's how insecure
Tickets
I am.
on sale Friday. Anthony Smith, #1 contender. Okay, bye.
Bellator.com and Ticketmaster.com. There he goes. The one and only Chael Sonnen. Did you leave your phone here? I don't think so.
No, I did. It's here on the floor.
You did? Fedor would have given back to you.
He probably would.
Yeah.
Is he that nice?
He's a mensch.
All right.
He's a mensch. He's an absolute mensch.
I'm going to go look that word.
Google it. Mensch means a gentleman. All right? Here we go. Thank you very much to Chael Sonnen. October 13th. Take care, guys. All the best. October 13th, tickets go on sale. And what's great about this is October 12th, Mohegan Sun, Fedor Emelianko, Friday night, just so happens to be 10-year anniversary, my wife and I. So I'll be missing that probably. But that's okay, because everyone wants to see Fedor Emelianko. That's the first semifinal of the Bellator Heavyweight Grand Prix. And then October 13th, at the brand spanking new Nassau Coliseum on Long Island, is Fedor versus Chael. So by Saturday night, October 13th, we're going to know who's in the finals. And the finals are probably going to be in January in Los Angeles. I was hoping that they would do them on the same night. In a weird way, I kind of think this is better. I kind of think that doing it back-to-back nights, kind of like an NCAA tournament thing, is pretty damn fun, especially when you consider the fact that both events are within a couple hours driving. So if you're not familiar, Mohegan Sun is in Uncasville, Connecticut, and the Nassau Coliseum is in Long Island. I haven't checked it on my Google Maps, but it's probably a 2-hour drive. It's called the tri-state area. So if you're going to one, like I would love to know how many fans are going to buy tickets to both and go to both, because I would imagine there's a lot. If I were a fan, 100% I'm doing that. How rare is it that you get two events like that, back-to-back nights, same location-ish, and they're kind of tied to each other, same promotion, same tournament? That's amazing. So thank you very much to Chael for stopping by. Again, tickets go on sale on Friday. And thank you very much to Bellator for bringing him. At around 4 o'clock, we're going to be joined by the great Fedor Emelianko in studio. So definitely stay tuned for that.